Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good super morning for any of you guys who are joining us from APAC. I guess good late afternoon, evening. We are so excited to be here today with you. Friday, our Sam Sales webinar, as usual, our ongoing series and all things to help you guys succeed, write better emails, create top of the funnel, what we are all struggling to do every single day. So thrilled to have you join us. Thank you so much for so many of you joining us today. I am thrilled to have Tim here with us today, the CEO of Owler. Very, very excited to have you guys as our sponsor and to get to dive into our inbox and everything going on. We've got somebody joining from Kenya. Welcome, Justice. Very excited to have you. But Tim, welcome. We're so excited to talk about all things inbox today. If you are new to Sam Sales, welcome. We are a Sam Sales, we're a sales consulting shop. We do all sorts of things from sales training to email writing to LinkedIn branding and everything in between. We do these every single month, so please come and hang out with us more often. As part of today's webcast, as we always do, we have a discount for our Sam Sales Shorts, which are super short training videos on all things LinkedIn. How do you create great emails? How do you write better? How do you get the attention of people like Tim and get him to respond? Take a meeting, which you'll learn how to do today. But please come and join us on our shorts. You've got a link and the discount code coming to you in your chat. And with that, I will stop talking for just a brief minute. I will pass over to Tim to give an introduction, and we will dive right into today's session.
Thank you so much, Sam. And Sam from the chat, former Meltwater employee. Awesome. You're here and joining today too. Love that. So just to introduce myself, I'm Tim Harsch, CEO of Owler. Owler is a platform for arming salespeople with better information on the companies that they're prospecting into, selling into, and currently have as accounts on the CS side, and being able to personalize. And this is something I'm really passionate about. I'm excited to talk about this today with you, Sam, because as we'll see, there are some horrendous emails that come into my inbox, everyone's inboxes, and it can be so much better and not just get immediately deleted, which is something I find myself doing quite a lot these days with the quantity of emails that are coming out. So yeah, excited to discuss.
Awesome. We're gonna dive into your inbox first, Tim, and take a look at the loveliness that is. But I think I would just say a couple of things, right? I think one of the reasons that this session is so important is as sellers, especially if we are BDRs, we're individual contributors, we're still early in our career, we might not get the same amount of inflow of sales emails that a person like Tim or myself or the CMO of a $300 million company that you're trying to go after is getting. So I think it's really important for you guys to see kind of what our inboxes look like every single day. What I think is fascinating is just the sheer volume of emails that come in, right? So we've got on average over 50,000 emails that come in to someone's inbox every single year, 50. And data shows that over half of that, or almost half of that, like 49.7%, is sales emails. Oh my gosh, right? Just think of all you have to sift through. So we talk about this all the time at Sam Sales. The way that you stand out in sales, the way that you succeed isn't by making another 10 cold calls a day. It's not by thinking about how you send another spammy set of emails. It's really about the art of being different, right? We talk about this all the time. Show me, you know me. How do we do show me, you know me? What is it? It's personalization, not at scale, but a true deep dive, right? And it starts with our subject lines. So Tim, give us a run through of this lovely landscape that we've got here.
So I just want to set the stage. I am an absolute fanatic when it comes to filters. So this is everything that hasn't been filtered into my newsletters folder or my to deal with later folder or any of the other categories that could exist. This is everything that actually makes it into my inbox. And still, even with that, you're seeing internal emails about usage from some of the products we're using, but of course, some cold outreach as well. And a few things just going down the list here. One of the first ones we see is this one from Michael. Crush startup goals with founders pack mastermind. A pet peeve of mine is the when there has been no former email. If it's a first email and you're doing that, I know who I've been emailing with, that is probably more likely to get deleted, honestly.
Well, let's even talk about that. Like let's say you open it, right? Like let's say somebody puts an RE in front of that. And then you open up that email, like, what does that communicate to you about the character of that person? Now, before you guys yell at me in the chat, by the way, I realize that these are sequences that your bosses have told you to write and that you're like, I don't want to send this stuff, but I have to. Send your bosses our way. We'll help them rewrite all their emails. But what does it say? What does it say to you potentially about the person or the company, right, that's sending this to you?
To me, it tells me that they're being a little dishonest. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we've clearly been coordinating, something before, and I know you, but I'm like, wait, you don't.
Yeah, it is such a hook, right? And it's like a tactic that became popular back in the day. Oh, just use the RE. There's another one that I see that happens a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's where like someone, of course, Aller would never do this, but it's basically where an email is written from you, Tim, and it looks like you send it to a rep who then forwards it to Sam, right? And it's you, Tim, saying, Bill, reach out to Sam McKenna. I think she's doing some really interesting things and she'd be a great fit for Aller. See if you can schedule a meeting with us. That goes out to 5,000 different people, right? That rep sends it to Sam. It makes you think you're important. And then Tim never shows up to the call. It's just the rep. I think just the lesson here is let's be honest in our communications, right? Like don't do things that are hooky, grimy, salesy, or that misrepresent the conversations you've had.
I couldn't agree more. And I will say one company that did do that and it worked really well was Pendo in their early days. And I actually was on the call with Pendo's CEO. And that was awesome. If you're actually going to follow through on it, do it. It's
That's
amazing.
Legit.
But don't do it dishonestly.
Exactly. I think too, like your communications, like whatever it is that you say, really set the precedence for what your relationship is going to be like. This is also why we talk about show me, you know me, right? Like set yourself apart, earn the right to the meeting, do it honestly, show that you've put the time in, right? But all of these subject lines, also, by the way, you guys, look on the far right. This is all in one day, June 5th, June 5th, June 5th. Think about this from Tim's perspective, right? Tim is like most CEOs where he is back to back to back, where he looks at his calendar every day and he's like, when am I going to have time to use the bathroom and eat? And now he's got to sift through all of this stuff to really find like, I think the one email maybe from Austin on your own team that really matters. And with these advanced filters, all of this, none of this really stands out, right? So it's an immediate delete just by looking at the subject line first and first sentence next. Right? Yeah. Cool. Paige, let's pop over to my lovely thing here. So this is a set of mine. I want to call out one. Sorry, old on 24 friends that might be on the call, but I want to call out some really important things here. So first, just take a look at every subject line here, right? Growing sales for Sam Sales Consulting. So one just note about the very top one. Everybody does personalization at scale, right? If you don't know what personalization at scale is, it's effectively the practice of using brackets within an email. So you might have two brackets that say first name, company, snippet, right? Where it's like pulling a related snippet from a post or something in the news that they wrote, and then just put it there. But what it also does is pull the company name, Sam Sales Consulting, however it's listed in your CRM, right? So let's say you use a CRM like Insightly, whatever the record is that's in there, you'll have Sam Sales Consulting misspelled with a capital S. No matter what you guys are doing, just take one quick second to look at how the company spells their name. Pop over to their website, scroll to the very bottom, look and see what the capitalization looks like. Sam Sales, first of all, we don't really go by consulting that often. If you know us, and we just go by Sam Sales, hashtag Sam Sales, but it's all lowercase, right? So when you put things like that, or you have LLC or something attached to it, you're just screaming, psst, this went to you and 500 other people. But look at these subject lines, right? Nothing stands out. Question about Sam Sales Consulting, and then just look at the next one, right? Hope you're having a great start to the day, maybe is what it says. But when you do something like that, plus a first sentence that includes niceties, which is something we talk about, it's an immediate delete. I know it's a sales email. I know that nothing right in here is really worthy of my time or attention. And so I immediately delete it. Quick side note about that. We talk about niceties a lot. Don't use niceties as your first sentence. Happy Monday. There is no such thing, as we always say. I hope you're having a great weekend. Hope this finds you and your family doing well. What if I don't have a family? Now you've offended me. Skip the niceties. While I am originally from Switzerland and I'm all about manners, I just flip it, right? Put the niceties at the very end. You can still have manners and be really pleasant and come across in a positive way, but start by cutting to the chase, right? What is it that you're really here to talk about? Or you can use our first sentence that we advocate for all the time at Sam Sales, which is, hey, Tim, we have yet to be properly introduced, but I'm Sam McKenna. And if I pair a subject line that uses show me you know me, right? If I talk about Tim, something in his about section on his profile on LinkedIn, something he recently posted about, if I quote something that he recently said on a podcast, like he said today, if I pull that in, plus we have yet to be properly introduced, but I'm Sam McKenna, I'm conveying something that I know something about him. I've taken the time to listen to something, that he's spoken on. I've looked at his profile, and then he's going to think, we haven't been properly introduced, but maybe we should have. Let me at least open up that email. If you can do those two things, the show me you know me plus that sentence, or the show me you know me and dive right in. Tim, I loved your presentation today with Sam. Think about how your open rates will pop, right? No question about it, your open rates will pop, which is the first thing we're trying to do. That's the first line of defense. Doesn't matter what the hell our email says. If we can't get it open, no one's going to see it. So getting through that first line of defense is so important. And it starts with standing out like this. Now, the one call out I'll make on the Bridget email here at on 24, right? Bridget sent me an outreach on 24 following up. Okay, so I want to talk about this, right? This is my former employer. I worked there for 6 years and I sold their technology for 10. Well, you can easily see that if you do a little show me you know me on my LinkedIn profile. But what I want to think about here is this is a response to an inbound. I filled out a form. I downloaded something from on 24's site to nerd out on something, webinars, like we all are want to do on a weekend. And I downloaded that. And then this is the response that came from that form. Think about for every single one of you, BDRs, AEs, anybody on the line that is doing inbound follow-up. If you take just a few minutes and look at that person's profile, particularly if it's somebody high ICP, buyer persona, et cetera, that you want to get in front of, and instead put, Sam Sales plus, I don't know, something on my about section plus on 24. And then you say, I see you used to work here. I'm sure you're no stranger to what we do. I would still love to see if we could have a conversation and help you. You'll get that meeting. If you guys do that for inbound, right, your inbound response rates will also skyrocket. So small things there. Now I will say, final thing, and then we'll move on to good and bad emails, and then I will give Tim the floor as well. I responded and I said, no need, got everything that I need. Thanks for reaching out anyway, et cetera. When you get a response from a buyer that isn't necessarily positive, just make sure to send a thank you. Thanks so much for responding. Totally get it. My bad. Should have looked at your LinkedIn profile. Send a response. Almost every single rep that we engage with doesn't. Most of the buyers talk about that they don't. And Tim, I'm sure you have experiences where you've taken the time, right, to respond. And then what happens?
Exactly. Nothing. I mean, I get emails, going back to what you were saying about capitalization. We changed our name almost a decade ago. I still get emails to the old company name, and same thing. There's no way that's getting any response. Or when I have, there's no engagement further, but build a relationship and maybe there's a deal to be had down the road.
Yeah, we say this all the time too, right? Just because it's a no right now doesn't mean it's going to be a no forever. Even if they're not the right buyer right now, or there's not a particular need, you've got a great opportunity to build that relationship. Respond, say thank you, bring your manners forward, right? Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to respond to my email. It's so nice to get a response for a change, even if it's not the one that I was hoping for. Really appreciate it. Pop over to LinkedIn, connect with Tim. You are now connected with the CEO of Owler. How awesome is that? And just say, thank you so much again for responding to my email. Thought I would say hello here to keep in touch. Your network is your net worth, right? I hate that cliche, but man, is it true. And you've got the opportunity to, every single time you get a response, to start building that up. And then as you become a smart social seller, or you start to post content on LinkedIn, they'll all see it. All right, now let's take a quick look at a next email, which is not a good example of an email. So something that we got recently, right? Sam Sales Consulting's sales stack, right? So again, when I look at this, no value, no show me you know me, no anything. I know it's a sales email, so I'm immediately deleting it. The thing that I will say about this, right? Look at kind of the show me you know me here. Saw your comment on a LinkedIn sales post. Is that show me you know me though? Is that actually looking at any kind of personalization? What comment? Which post? What did you think about it? When we talk about show me you know me, the most important thing is you don't say something about someone, right? You don't say like, Tim, I see you work for Owler. Cool. Want to buy our stuff? No. What about it? Sam, I see that you love Barefoot Contessa. Cool. Want to buy our stuff? Make sure you connect the dots, right? So what about it? How can you authentically tie yourself to whatever it is you're talking about with that person? And I think what's interesting, and like, Tim, I'll ask your opinion on this, but sometimes we get pushback about show me, you know me, and you're like, people are like, nobody wants to connect about human stuff. Your show me, you know me has to be relevant to the business product, which I completely disagree with, right? Like, we're humans at the end of the day. We want to chit chat. We want to build relationships. We want to get in front of people. But tell me about that for you, Tim. Like, if somebody takes the time to connect with you on something outside of your work life, how would you feel about it?
I'm all for it, but it needs to be genuine. To your point, if it's
Yeah,
just, hey, I saw your comment on this, or hey, I see you worked at, or you currently work at this company, like, cool, okay, you took 2 seconds on LinkedIn to make that assumption. But if you actually do the work and are showing that you're putting in some time and effort, I think that engenders a better response on the other side.
exactly. And think about this for anybody on your ends, right? If you're thinking like, well, that's great, but most of my buyers, have tumbleweeds rolling across their LinkedIn profiles. There's nothing I can use. This is where we get creative. Were they written about in articles? Are they important enough for you to spend the time researching something? Were they on a podcast like today? Can you pull a quote from that? What's going on with their company? Can you authentically align with the values and principles and mission statement of their company, right? For me, if I think about LinkedIn, right, if I'm trying to target LinkedIn, one of the things LinkedIn talks about is how they create economic opportunity for every member. That makes my heart like melt, right? That makes me think about how helpful they are, the culture that they have. I can align with those values just by like talking about that in the subject line, how much I align with the values that they have and the mission they have. Final thing I'll say on this, and Tim would love your feedback on this email, but just take a quick look at this. Saves dozens of hours in copywriting tasks by using our automatic copywriting and contact personalization workflows. So something we talk about, right? Like, I think there's a lot of advocacy out there around emails of short, short, short. They have to be short. You have to capture their attention. You have to capture their attention through show me, you know me, right? That's how we capture attention. You have to earn their time, right? If I am thinking about, I'm one of our clients, Louise. Hi, Louise is on our webinar today. She's really important. She's really busy. And if I write Louise and I'm like, Louise, I can train your sales teams. Want to buy us? She's going to be like, no, who are you and why? Instead, I have to think about how to earn her time. I have to think about something specific, tangible, practical that she, as a sales leader, is focused on that I know I can solve for her. So if maybe I say, of all the sales leaders we work with, these are their 3 priorities. Top of the funnel pipeline, better conversion for discovery calls, and better sales emails, better open rates and response rates to sales emails. If any of the 3 of these are your top priority, here's one specific way that we can solve a challenge for you, like we do for some of these companies related to your industry. I also need to think about if she's going to have a hidden or forthcoming objection. That's really important, right? If she says, we already do that, we already use you. If I say I can train you on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, she's going to say, I have a CSM for that at LinkedIn. I don't need you. You have to think about that. She sure as heck isn't going to respond to me and make me argue with her, right? So think about these things, how you can elongate these emails a little and earn that time, not only through show me, you know me, but truly thinking about the buyer challenge. Okay.
And Sam, can I point out
Tim.
one other thing on this?
Yeah.
There's an assumption being made here by Paulo that you need help with copywriting and content personalization. Why not ask that question? Like, hey, is that a challenge for you? Because maybe the answer is no.
Yeah.
In which case, maybe it becomes a priority later, and you've at least opened that conversation without making a massive assumption and immediately asking for something of, hey, let's take a meeting tomorrow, which is also a pet peeve of mine.
Or send me, oh my God, tomorrow. Yeah, let's quickly touch on that. I think, Tim, you were probably like me, where your calendar is booked about 6 weeks or so in advance, right? Again, back to back every single day. So we have to also use some EQ. If you have some time to have a chat over the next week or 2, right? Like, be buyer centric. Or, Tim, to your exact point, like, find something on our website that's written with typos, right? Poor Missy, who runs our website, is probably like, excuse me, those don't exist, listening right now. But find something that's written with typos, send me a screenshot and be like, looks like you could potentially use our help. How many other issues exist out there? Fantastic point. Don't make that assumption. Cool. Let's look at our second one.
Yeah, let me just jump in really quick because I did see in reviewing some of the pre-posted questions, one person did ask, what are your favorite CTAs in an email? What would grab your attention? So maybe you both could touch on that since we're talking about it here.
Yeah, Tim, talk about that. Like, so CTA, for anybody who doesn't know, a call to action, right? How do we earn that time? Is it asking you for 15, 20 minutes? Is it sending you a Calendly link and outbound? What is it that gets your attention?
Well, Sam, you just hit the nail on the head for me. The biggest one for me is show that you've done the research. Hey, we found a mistake on your website. We can help with that so you avoid it in the future. We found a bug in your system. We offer QA services and can make sure that doesn't happen in the future. And ask if that's a priority. I think getting that initial reply and starting to build a back and forth, in my mind, is one of the best starting points of providing value and getting that interaction.
Totally. I think a couple of things there. So there's so much data that supports not asking for time, right? Soliciting for interest. So you think about, are you interested in learning more, right? Can we interest you in a chat about how we can support you here? Everything that I try to do with a call to action at the bottom, and really throughout all of our emails, is remove any salesy language I possibly can. We all use the same stuff, right? All use 15 or 20 minutes and we send a calendar invite for 30. Why? We all use Calendly links or the likes, right? Here's a calendar link for you to schedule time with me. I don't like to use any of that, right? So I take out that salesy language and instead I might say, Tim, if you're interested in learning more, this is a priority for you. I'd love to chat through. Let me know if you have time over the next week or two, and I'll send a calendar invite along accordingly. As a quick segue for that, for those of you who are like, oh, but my Calendly link, right? It's so convenient, it's so easy, etc. I want you to think about a couple of things. One, particularly in outbound, it's so presumptuous, right? Tim, if I sent you an email and I was like, I can help you with all of Owler's needs, here's a link for you to schedule time with me. Wouldn't you be so turned off?
Completely.
Right. Why? It's like, it's presumptuous, right? Do you feel that way? Like, it's just like, you do it, you schedule it with me.
Yeah, and no one knows the business, no one knows the challenges we're facing, like, the internal folks, and maybe whatever you're offering just isn't relevant right now or not a priority.
Yeah. And I think also for me, being the control freak that I am, I want to meet, like, I do want to meet today, cognizant you probably cannot, but I want to meet today, right? So the last thing I want is to give you a link to my calendar and make you schedule around my work, because maybe you can meet today. Maybe I've caught you on the right Friday and you can meet today, but I have all of like my one-on-ones today. I'm going to move one of those and prioritize a potential buyer, particularly a CEO. So I want to be in full control. I also don't want to make you do the work. So I think really important things there, that call to action, just focus on interest and then think about the buyer instead of just selfishly sending your calendar link along. Cool. But Tim, this is one that you got, I believe, right? So this was the lots of text, lots of notes. We had some maybe positives in here. Anything you want to talk about before I yammer on?
Yeah, there are a few here. It doesn't take long to clear formatting. There are different fonts, different sizes, and different colors in this text, which is a huge call out for, hey, as you were saying, Sam, this went to 500 people, and I copy and pasted a bunch to those 500 people. My name, I think, is even in a slightly different size. Like, so you see it first thing. It's not remotely
That's
subtle.
amazing. Yeah.
The bullet points are, sometimes helpful if it's actually driving real value. But here I just see 93, 95, 95, 98. Those to me read as made up. I mean, no one is that good. And those are all oddly close as well. So, yeah. And there's nothing, as we were talking about, that's actually directly applicable to Owler. So, here we are talking about your business. Maybe we don't need any of this right now.
Exactly right. I think of this like piece by piece, you guys, right? So again, subject line, if you just look at the subject line and the first sentence together, flexible engagement models makes, and then we decide to not use uppercase anymore, us, the QA partner. What the QA partner of what? What does it do, right? What happens there? So then we've got, hi, Tim, hoping this message finds you in good spirits. When you put those two things together, all it says is sales email, right? Imagine instead, if we had taken that subject line, we had done show me you know me, Hey, Tim, we have yet to be properly introduced, but I am Eve and part of the team at XYZ. Would love to chat with you about XYZ. Next piece you want to think about as a key account executive, I am part of whatever the name of the company is. I believe I might be messaging you a good time. What leads you to believe that, right? All fluff that we can kind of pull out, right, and get cut directly to the chase. Again, that nicety, we want to make sure that we put it at the bottom, right? So that nicety comes at the bottom. We can do all the niceties at the bottom. It's so much more authentic when we cut to the chase and then do the nicety. Think about it. When you are reaching out to somebody, if I am following up on a proposal with Tim and I say, Tim, how's it going? Did you have a nice Memorial Day? As we're both in the States. What'd you get up to? By the way, wanted to check in on our proposal. Versus if I had reversed it. Hey, Tim, wanted to check in on a proposal. I know you were soliciting it for some comments. Wanted to see if you need anything else from us. I'm here to help. By the way, hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. I was out in the sun, got a little sunburned. Hopefully yours was a little bit better than mine. That's it. Just a simple reversal. You still have the niceties, you still have the polite factor, but you're so much more authentic. Other things that I just want to touch on in here, right? If you think about our team has been eager to work with you. Everybody's eager to work with us. Thanks. Join the club. I'm just being funny, hopefully. For quite some time now, because we work with a lot of companies like yours, like mine, what do I do? There's nothing specific in here, right? There's nothing specific about Aller. There's nothing specific about the industry. There's nothing even specific about Tim and his role, right? So again, all this says is this went to you and 500 other people. What's really important also is ROI or progress in email one. We always want to avoid that. And what I would think about here, right? Even though you're making these increases, let's say opposite to Tim's point. Let's just pretend these are real numbers, right? Still 98% of what, you know, was it one test case increase usage and now it's almost 2, right? Like, what does that increase really mean? And it's so different. The increases are bespoke to everyone that's specifically in there. You can talk about an average, right? We tend to see an average win rate of 43%. We tend to see an open rate, right? We'll talk about that, an open rate of 43%, but it doesn't go in the first email. The first email isn't about you. And it's not about a story about telling other people, about telling your buyers what you're doing for other people, right? That storytelling can come later. This first email is, Tim, I suspect you have these challenges because I work with CEOs just like you in the space that exactly that Aller is in. This is one specific way I am, assuming that I can be of support to you. Would love to have a chat if you're interested in learning more. Think through what keeps Tim up at night. Another cliche I hate. What keeps you up at night? What keeps Tim up at night? What is he most concerned about, right? What are the other CEOs that you talk to concerned about? And then again, just thinking about taking out all these other fluffy things that don't really matter. The email is not meant to sell someone. It's meant to bait them, right? You want to solicit interest. And even if you can't do that on email 1, think about how you might be able to do it, not on email 2, but on email 3, 4, and 5, and so forth. I want to get to our good email, but final thing I'm just going to mention, data points for how to get somebody to respond. Think about this. Don't do this to Tim today. Give him his weekend, but maybe next week. Think about your executives, right? We talk about how on average now executives are working 6.6 hours every single weekend. Woo, very exciting. Think about how you can send a great show me, you know me email on a Thursday or a Friday. And then the data point that you want to use is the second email should come less than 48 hours after the first email. But the kicker is if you've done your show me, you know me correctly, right? If you've taken the time to authentically connect with them, in that second email, it should repeat the same subject line, have that great show me, you know me subject line that you've already worked so hard to do. And it should introduce no new information, right? So simply saying, hey, Tim, wanted to see if you had a chance to read my email below. I'd be grateful for the chance to chat with you about how Sam Sales can support Aller. If you're ever up for a chat, let me know. Very simple, cut to the chase. Also just note that I said I'd be grateful, or I also can say I'd appreciate the time. I cut out, I'd love to. I'd love to tell you about Sam Sales. So would everybody on the planet love to tell me about their business. Small changes, right, and semantics can go a long way. Okay, let's look at our good example. So let me just first say, this is a great example for us to share because one, this comes from one of our clients who has been a client twice over of Sam Sales. When this client came to us, he's an amazing human, but he's like, I don't buy it. I don't buy that show me you know me works. And I'm like, I promise it does. And he's like, all right, well, let's put your money, my money where your mouth is, and let's try it. And we converted him really quickly. I will also say he has a video testimonial on our website about how well show me you know me did. But this is so great. And that he's using it, right, to reach out to Sarah, our VP of sales. So he's just asking Sarah for a favor. But check out the subject line, right? Of all the very exciting stuff that Sarah gets in her inbox, which looks a lot like mine, he gets something that says TS fans plus hashtag samsales fans plus helping me beta test my new product, right? TS fans, if you were a Swiftie, you know that is Taylor Swift. So he says, hi, Sarah. Sam has told me so many absolutely wonderful things about you, and a lot about your Taylor Swift fanaticism. Fun fact, only Swiftie would appreciate Taylor gets her hair done by my hair person. How fancy is he, right? But he goes on, right? He talks a little bit about about what he's looking for. I'm a former Sam sales customer. I'm setting up my next company. This is the company name, etc. Based on your last month of LinkedIn's posts, I think you would agree that's a noble cause. He took the time, right, to look at her LinkedIn post and to make a connection with her, and then to just create this cute little thing, right? So you've got kind of a bullet thing like Tim talked about, right? The bullets can be great if they matter, right? Or if they're relevant, or if they really succinctly deliver information about something that's important to the challenge. But just look, right? A, talk about how Midnights was the Joe breakup album, right? And then the other three things following about that. And then simply says what days work best for you in the hopes of getting that close. It's not specifically asking for time. It's not 15 or 20 minutes, but what days might work best, right? Of course, Sarah shared this email around. We all swooned. He got the meeting pretty quickly. But Tim, like, think about this. If you had posted about something, or if you were talking about like one of your favorite bands or something, and somebody quoted a lyric from it or something like that, would that get your attention? Would that get you to at least open up the email?
It absolutely, excuse me, it absolutely would. And, you know, it's interesting because one of the other issues with the prior email was abbreviations that I didn't know, like ISV and SI. I don't know what those are. But in this instance, if it's a shared interest like TS, then that's a win because you're showing that you know them and, you know, you have that same interest.
Exactly. And again, you guys, this isn't meant to be like the silver bullet, right? For show me, you know me. We may not have the person's profile may be filled with stuff that we're like, I got nothing. I have absolutely nothing to connect with this person on. So again, this is where corporate news, their website, their values, their missions, all of that come into place. This is not that hard. I would tell you too, for those of you who are just starting on your show me, you know me journey, one, we could not have more people to talk about how this has changed truly their entire sales game, right? 300K of pipeline, I think in a week or two page. We got a great testimonial around that. 4 meetings a week using it. It takes time. Cut yourself some slack. As you start to do the show me, you know me, you start to think about how to get the attention of people like Tim in their inbox. It might take you 30 minutes to write one email. That's okay. Set a goal for 10 or 20 emails in a week. You'll get faster. It's just like running a mile, right? If you're like me, it'll take you 27 minutes. And maybe tomorrow, next week, 26. We'll get there. Not that long, I assure you. Okay. I know we've got a bunch of questions, Paige, that came in, and probably Q&A as well that we want to fire up. So I will stop sucking all the wind out of this conversation with Tim, and let's get to our Q&A.
Yeah, so I wanted to jump in relating to that last email, the good email. We did have a pre-post question that someone asked. As the CEO, is there anything that completely turns you off in an email, specifically regarding humor? Like, he just added a lot of humor in the Taylor Swift album and all of that stuff that added a little personality. Can someone go too far on the humor or be too informal as you are in the C-suite?
What do you think, Tim?
I think it does depend on the recipient. You know, it's not one size fits all. I like to think I have a good sense of humor. A lot of people disagree with me, so, you know, take that for what you will. But you know, I think in my case, there's still a line of, if it's too informal, probably not great. I mean, eventually, hopefully, we're going to do business, right? And if that's the case, you know, I need to know that you are a serious business and going to be able to deliver on the contract that we would hopefully eventually put in place together. But humor does have a place at the same time.
I agree. I think one thing I would say is you need to remember, I think the professionalism with the humor is important. So simple things like, I really dislike I'm not going to write you off for it, but I just like when people say, hey, in emails when we don't know each other. Hey, Sam, like it feels a little too casual for me. So just kind of think about how to keep your semantics a little professional while maybe still being humorous. I think the other thing to mention here is remember, if this is cold outreach, someone doesn't know that you're funny and it may not land correctly, right? If you don't set it up or tee it up correctly. So even like we were talking about this for presentation skills on stage, right? Like how do we make a joke? You have to make a really broad joke first to make sure that people get that you're humorous and that you're going to lay, humor in so that when you do make a joke that might be a little harder to get, they already know to expect that you're going to be, a comedian of sorts. Same thing with your emails. So just keep a couple things in mind. I think humor is great. I think you just need to make sure that they know you're being funny with like a little winky face afterwards. People are like, emojis, that's weird. Is that unprofessional? Not if you're making a joke. I'll give you an example, right? Our former BDR, Lily, just reached out to me this week. And she said, I can see that people are opening my emails and they're clicking through our links, right? Can I say that? Is it creepy if I tell them that I know that they're doing that stuff? And I was like, no. And in fact, you can add a little self-deprecating humor in there, right? So what I said to say is, I can see you're opening up our emails and clicking through our links, which I'm hopeful means that there's intent and interest in our product, or ... that my emails are just so bad that you're looking for my boss's contact information to let him know, winky face, right? Like the ... kind of sets it up. It adds a little humor in there. Or like I was just speaking to somebody today who's like, I love when I find somebody who golfs and then I can reach out to them about golfing. And I'm like, use self-deprecating humor in the subject line. Maybe say, from a handicap of 81, but I'm bumped to 7, right? Like a little self-deprecating humor about how you're handicapped. I don't even know if that even exists. If you can say you have a handicap of 81, you probably shouldn't be allowed on the golf course. Any golfers out there? But I think there's a great way to use that. I'd be careful on the memes if it's not already part of your brand and normal. Gong does a great job of this. They're all about the memes and doing that stuff, but you know to expect that from their brand. And if you don't, just be a little careful there.
Okay, I did want to tell everyone, so the Q&A is live. We have a lot of anonymous questions coming in, but we can also spotlight you so you can talk to Sam and Tim live. So let us know in the Q&A if you would like to join and ask your question. It's your chance to get some time with them. And then also I wanted to let you know that Allermax has offered 20% off to all attendees of this webinar. So until June 30th, 20% off Allermax. Huge deal. And we're going to drop the link to that right now. So wanted to drop that in. Okay. Next anonymous question. What are some data points sellers can reference in their emails to make their outreach stand out to executives?
Tim, tell me from your perspective, is there something specific around like Aller's performance, Aller's records, anything like that? Or is it really just flat out homework that you most care about, right? Like make the human connection.
Yeah, I think the only way to do it at scale is human connection, because the challenge is our internal goals, what we're optimizing for at any given time may be shifting. And unless you've heard a recent podcast or interview where someone on our team is saying, hey, we're really aiming for this right now, we're trying to go from X to Y with this metric, it's going to be really hard to say, hey, we can move that for you and tell a really good story around that. I've seen good emails that use ROI for competitors or others in the industry. Hey, we were able to increase open rates for prospecting emails from 20% to 30%, something like that within within our industry. Like that would get my attention if it's valid and not just pulling numbers out of a hat. But hey, we did it for companies X, Y, and Z. If you'd like to speak to our references there, I can set that up. Like, okay, this is legit. Let's have that conversation.
Cool. Yeah, I would say, again, the subject line is the most important thing. I'm going to beat that dead horse until hopefully you guys all get it and master it. Just keep in mind, right, that kind of we talk about, right? Like we'll say for me, I was on the Nickelodeon show when I was a kid, and I love Barefoot and Contessa, as you know. I worked for LinkedIn before I started samsales. You could write something like that, right? You could say Barefoot Contessa plus LinkedIn plus whatever your company name is, right? That email is funky. That subject line looks funky. And it makes no sense to anybody out there except for the one person you wrote it for. That's how you stand out. And I think what's really interesting is even if you take a mix of like, you don't need to do this, right? But focus on the personal stuff. But even if you take a mix of personal and professional, write something about their company and do that, man, you're really cooking that. So let's say I find something out. Let's say a company that we're targeting has recently published goals that by 2027, they are going to double their revenue, right? Like, let's say they're $150 million business and they are committed to by 2027 getting to 300 million. Let me read that press release really quick, right? One of the questions I can ask is, how are you going to, what's the roadmap to that? Have you put out a path together? Here's one specific way that we can help you get there. One of the stools of your strategy should be XYZ, right? This is exactly how we can support you. If you haven't given consideration, we'd be happy to talk to you about the strategies that we're giving to other CEOs in your space with similar goals. Think about that. We get that open through that show me, you know me, perhaps by putting a quote from the press release, perhaps putting about saying something like path to 300 million by 2027, plus something about golf or whatever they love, plus your company name, or just leave it there. And then say, I came across your press release. I love this. By the way, when I happened upon your LinkedIn section, I saw this. Here's my authentic tie to what I saw about you. I'm curious though, right? Your path to doubling your revenue by 2027. Have you considered XYZ as being one of the legs of your stool? We talk to CEOs about this all day long. This is a top priority for them. If you haven't considered it, would love to chat with you about it. What I love about this too is that you're offering in exchange for their time to teach them something. This isn't a sales pitch. This isn't a discovery call. This isn't for you to uncover BANT, right? And talk them through that. This is for you to simply say, we talk to CEOs about this specific strategy every day. At samsales, this is something we do around LinkedIn executive branding. We build voices for execs on LinkedIn. We write all their stuff. We manage their profiles. If I reach out to CROs and CMOs and CCOs and say exactly that, happy to share with you these strategies and why it's a strategy for your competitors and how we can support you doing it. What? Like, we haven't even considered that. We didn't think about that. What a killer way to stand out.
Yeah, providing value and teaching is amazing.
Who knew? What? All right.
Okay,
Paige.
next question. How do we differentiate from AI that is doing the relevancy work? Relevancy and connections are going to be much more tough.
Tim, what are your thoughts there? I have lots of them.
Yeah, this is a very hot topic these days. And, I think I've looked into that technology. My background's in engineering, and the reality is it's crowdsourcing at a massive scale, and it's pulling from all the content that's already written. So be different, differentiate, and do more personalization. I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about here. There's going to be, instead of 50 emails in my inbox when I wake up in the morning, probably 150, because people are going to be writing even more of those bad emails. And sure, those will get a little better, but I think that makes it even more important to truly stand out and show that you can personalize and are providing value.
I think AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI and how we need to think about how to use it, how if we're not investing in learning how to use it, if you haven't even visited ChatGPT, you just noodle around with it, right? Behind the times. But I think what's important to remember is that nothing can truly replace your soul, right? Like your fire, the humanness that you bring to it, your tone, your jokes, your inflections, etc. Right? It can try to replicate quite a bit of it, but at the end of the day, right? Making a joke about, I suspect you're clicking through our links because of XYZ. Making a joke maybe about your handicap, maybe they could do that. But there's still, I think, the human element that is so necessary. And what I will say, right? I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. Everybody's like, robots are going to take over our world. Sure, maybe. I think AI is fantastic for efficiency of learning information, for speeding up show me, know me, for figuring out information about the client, the space, the industry, right? What a great cheat sheet and full of crib notes for you to learn things. But take that information, right? Call that your 85 or 90% of your content and then humanize it, right? So embrace the efficiency while still adding your tone and your language. And you think when you really look at our buyers, they're not only are they immune to things like personalization at scale, right? Like just seeing their name, right? Or where it says like Tim, inequality sign, Sam in their subject line, and you're like, riveting, my name and yours. This is going to be a wild time. they're immune to that stuff, but they're also immune to what's written in the email, right? Like when it comes across and it's written like a robot without that kind of soul, they're immune to that. So while I think there's so much that's going to be impressive about AI and that efficiency, I think our buyers are really looking for the humans, right? That they want to build a relationship with, not just the platform that wrote something in 16 seconds.
Okay, next question. How important is timing when referencing a relevant event or sales trigger? How can sellers stay on top of their timing?
I'm going to say one thing. Hang on, I'm going to go off video because I think it's it keeps fuzzing me out. Hopefully I'm clear again now. I'm going to just say one thing, like I think on the triggers and kind of compelling events. So if you can read the other sign that's behind me on the wall, right? This is urgent bird gets the worm. I believe in urgency to my core. Move your buns quickly as you possibly can. When you see something like a trigger, so for those of you who may not be familiar with that word, I think it's specific to outreach, but a trigger basically means, right, when it sends you an alert, like somebody keeps opening up your emails, the email's been opened up 2, 3, 4 times in different locations, right? Somebody's on your website, trigger alert, like speed to lead there. Timing is critical, right? So even when somebody's on your website, has left your webinar, has downloaded a document, has opened up your email, there's a ton of data out there that says you basically have from 0 to 5 minutes to capitalize on that engagement, or you lose it, right? Exponential odds that somebody's going to respond, pick up the phone, reply to your email if you move. I want to just mention trigger events. So maybe what we're really asking there is compelling events, right? So how important is it that we capitalize on the timing of compelling events? For anybody who doesn't know what a compelling event is, it's something that happens in the news about a company that you're targeting and you want to reference that. So congrats on your funding, congrats on your promotion, Tim, congrats on your acquisition, congrats on your whatever. To me, those compelling events are important, but I would say use them as fuel to go one level deeper. We talk about this a lot, right? But when Tesla got their 5th positive quarterly earnings and made the S&P 500, what did everybody send to Tesla? Congrats on your S&P 500. Woo! Instead, dig one level deeper, right? What else can you find out? Be different, like Tim said, right? Stand out from the noise. Use a different compelling event. That said, I do think that you can use dated things to either connect or even continue to nurture your buyers. So I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Just don't tell anybody. I will look for things, right? I've got times that are blocked out so I can figure out how to nurture our buyers. And so I might have time today to listen to a podcast, right? Tim's been on a podcast and I'm like, I'm going to break Tim and he's going to give me a meeting. So maybe I listen to the podcast today. I write up what I want to say to Tim and then I send it like 3 weeks later, right? To keep nurturing him and staying top of mind instead of sending it today. You can still say that, right? I flagged your podcast from 3, 5, 6 weeks ago because I really wanted to listen to it and I finally got around to it. Love this piece, love this topic. Here's my point of view on it. Great work on this podcast. So just don't, I think within a year, and then it starts to look a little creepy. It's like that person that goes back and likes your Instagram pictures from 3 years ago. And you're like, oh, wow, what are you doing? Tim, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think recency is all that important if you're going that one level deeper and really connecting the dots, because that's where the value is. I mean, when Owler got acquired by Meltwater, my inbox was 150 deep of congrats, and all of those blurred together. You're not getting my attention in that way. There has to be something more, which isn't tied to the recency. If someone had said congrats and 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later, great. Now you decided on your side that it was relevant and you're providing more value. Perfect. Let's have that conversation now.
Yeah. I want to mention one more thing. Like, let's think about relevancy and timing on when you get pushback from, let's say, a buyer or a prospect that says, contact me in 90 days, right? Perhaps that is a contact me in 90 days from a buyer that you're the prospective client. But I also want to think about your existing customers, right? Because I see a huge miss here. Existing customers, right? Maybe you're working through a proposal. This is land and expand. And the buyer says, hey, our key decision maker just went out on maternity leave. She'll be back in 6 months because we have an amazing maternity leave policy. Let's pick up the ball back then. What reps do, right? They set a reminder for 5 months and 3 weeks. They do nothing in between. And then they reach back out on that day. But what they do is they'll just say, hey, Tim, just following up. Sounds like Mary, hopefully Mary came back right? From leave, wind up, pick it up from there. Nobody will respond. And then they follow up and they follow up and they follow up. It's been 90 days. It's been 6 months, right? What's happened since then? Have you done your discovery? Do you have another point of view? Do you have something you can offer them of value? Don't just say, the time's up, let's go, ready to meet? Think about how you can spur that meeting. Also, if you have sent a ton of emails, right, and you're not getting a response, one of the cool things that we do is we try to put a call to action, compelling event, something before the RE of the email, which I realize will look really funky. As an example, I think I just even commented about this on LinkedIn today. One of my old reps invited a bunch of our clients to a Nats suite. The Nats are a baseball team here in DC, to a Nats suite that we were sponsoring. Nobody responded. Not a single person wanted to come to our free game. Why? Because he buried the lead. So he would just reply all to the last email, the 19th email he has sent to try to get their attention. And buried at the bottom was, by the way, we're hosting a game. We'd love for you to join us. Put it before the RE. Nats game this Thursday, question mark, RE, whatever our show me you know me was. And changed it up, almost 100% response. So think about how you can use that funky, I'll be in your city. We're having an executive roundtable. I want to give you $500. Anybody? No, nobody. I'm going to give, whatever the call to action is, put it before the RE. What a great way to funkily stand out. That's a word, funkily. Use it in a sentence today.
Funkily, new word. Okay, we only have a few minutes, so I'm going to try to get through some rapid questions before we wrap up. Next question. What volume should we expect a salesperson to send out if they're spending more time crafting emails instead of blasting 1,000 generic emails?
Tim, what would you say? Like, what would your expectation be?
I'm a big believer in quality over quantity. So I don't have a specific number in mind. I'd be curious of your perspective though.
This is going to scare a lot of people. The reason that we are so focused on quantity right now is because it is so hard to get a response, right? That is also an official word. Feel free to use that with your boss. It is so hard. We have to send all of this volume out because we typically get what? A 5 to 6% open rate and a 0.9% response rate. Oh my God, I want to jump out of a building. Instead, if you do your show me, you know me, you don't have to send as much quantity, right? You've got quality there and you'll get a better response rate. I would say set a moderate goal for yourself. Send 20 show me, you know me emails in a week. It's not that bad, right? Send those, block the time out, block some prospecting time out, get in a groove, come in early. Ask your boss if you can leave a little later or leave a little earlier in the day. Hey, I want to leave at 3 because I'm going to come in at 7 and I want to just use that quiet time in the morning to prospect my little buns off and try to do some show me, you know me, crank it through. What you will find, I suspect, right? If you just think of the show me, you know me subject lines, you will get a 30, 40, 50% open rate. Some of our clients get upwards of 80% open rate. Some of our clients who have gone through our ICs who have gone through our SAM shorts say that they get 100% open rate. Right now, then the work is on you to write a really compelling email that gets a response, but at least we're getting that open. So focus on 20. Again, cut yourself some slack. It might take you 30 minutes to get through that. That's okay. It's great prospecting.
Okay. Is it risky to reach out directly to the C-suite without having champion buy-in first?
Absolutely not. But Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think so either. Go for it.
Get your courage together and do it. People, what do we always talk about? Like the worst sales analogies. It's harder to walk up the stairs than it is to work down the stairs. Go to Tim, go to Sam, go to the C-suite, your CRO, your SVP of sales, right? The person that you would like just drool to get a meeting with at that company that's relevant, right? We're not reaching out to the CEO of DuPont. They're not going to care. Reach out to that super senior title. Put the work in for that person. I assure you, there's a great post from a leader at LinkedIn who has one of the top 3 jobs at LinkedIn for sales. She posted on LinkedIn talking about how in 3 years, she got 4 personalized emails. Holy moly. When we're getting 10 to 50 a day and she got 4 sales emails, so personalized sales emails in 3 years, that's bananas. You will stand out. So if you just say, you know what, I'm only going to show me, you know me, to like VP and above or senior director and above if you're going after, larger enterprise companies. But that show me, you know me in, because I bet you'll get a great open rate and you'll get people who respond and just say, holy hell, thank you so much for doing that. Also, I'm not the right person, but down the stairs, here's my senior director. Here's my director of demand gen that you should talk to. They're just people, right? And I'm scared as hell. If you're an SDR, you're like, that's hilarious. I don't even know how to talk to somebody at that seniority. Remember, they're just people. Think of it as like your mom or your dad or your granddad, depending on how old you are. Grandma. Anyway, Paige, back to you.
Okay, another good question. How would you suggest responding to the "I don't have budget" response? They reach out to you as a CEO, you tell them, "I don't have budget." What's the next step?
Tim, when have you said it's about budget and it's ever been about budget?
A lot. It's an easy out.
But it's never really about budget. You always have the money. There's just no value, right?
If the ROI was truly there, yeah, we'd find budget. Absolutely. But I don't believe the ROI if I'm saying that.
Yeah. I think even if you get, wherever you get budget as part of the buying cycle, just remember one quick thing to kind of close out on our last few minutes. I want you to think about the fact that it is almost never about budget, right? A few times it's about budget. It's about budget when you get the wrong buyer who just isn't your right ICP, right? You get somebody who makes $25,000 a year that's at the Ferrari dealership. They got a mismatch here, right? Like we're not aligned. But most of the time, it's not about budget. So you want to think about it is always about ROI. It's always about value. And it's also our job to get creative about the buckets that we pull budget from. Now, this is a little bit different, right? We're asking in the very first email, how do we respond to that? But just as a quick reference point, for anybody, right, that might have sold for Zoom, or just think about Zoom in general. How many people didn't have budget for Zoom, right? Or had other solutions that they used in February of 2020? How many people then had budget suddenly, oh my God, out of nowhere, for Zoom, right, in March or April of 2020. The way to think about it, it's about value, it's about need, it's about ROI. That's our job to connect the dots on. Now, depending on your product, depending on what your initial email said, right, it's my answer to a sales question is never how to do exactly this next. It's usually let's look 2 or 3 steps backwards and see what we might have done wrong to get that response, right? Not the right person, budget, wrong timing, etc. So I would just say, make sure, right, you've got value proposition that's specific to that buyer persona. And if you say no budget, start to think about an answer that you can formulate to say, a lot of our clients say that because they might not quite know our value. They might not quite know exactly what we do. 2 of the ways, right, that we've been able to find budget and then prove value are XYZ. Should that change your mind, or should that open up a new avenue for us to consider? We'd love the chance to chat with you about it more. You have to prove value, and you have to show them very, very, very politely how they might be wrong. Cool. I know you guys are getting this recording. Eller, Tim, thank you so much for sponsoring today's webcast. And thanks for coming and joining us, Tim. Like, great to learn from you and your perspective as well. Thank you so much for being a great co-panelist today. And thanks, Paige and Catherine, for helping us lead everything behind the scenes and on the scenes. Really appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.